Hey guys, I'm back. Hopefully the audio is starting off good this time. Peter pointed out to me last time I did not have my audio settings correct, so we're going to try to actually get this thing rolling. And thankfully, it looks like folks are showing up. So Amir, good to see you, sir. I appreciate you guys hopping on. As you guys are doing this, as we're kind of getting everybody online after my little first attempt there, if you can, please share the event and the video around on your Facebook. We'd love to get more folks on here. And we're going to be promoting this thing after the fact. It'll be available for folks to watch. So even if you share it and they don't have the opportunity to watch it live, they're still going to see this pop up in their Facebook feed and later up on YouTube. So your help sharing would be fantastic. A couple of things that I want to point out as we're getting ready to get started. A couple of things you guys can do to get more information about My Campaign Coach and the tools we're creating as we move forward. Number one is, please, like I said, share the Facebook Live event. We're going to be doing more of these, probably at least once a month. We're not quite sure exactly how many we'll do, but I definitely like the idea. And so we're going to be doing some more of these. Oh, you need some more volume, Georgia? Okay. I'm going to crank this sucker up. Is that any better? Let me know what you're thinking and how it sounds, and we'll get some more volume on here. Georgia, just let me know, and we'll adjust from there. Hopefully that's a little bit better. Perfect. I'm glad it's sounding good. So sharing the live video, subscribe to our email list. So via mycampaigncoach.com, we have an email list, and we're sending out emails every single week, making sure that we're providing all the content we put out. So blog posts, videos, podcasts, all the different content we're putting out. It's oftentimes hard to find everything on Facebook. And so we've got our email list every week sending new content out, any specials that we're running as far as some of our paid courses and coaching. And we're going to be developing a lot more of those over the next few months. So definitely check them out. The other one is our podcast. So we've got that. It's coming out every week, interviews with consultants, candidates, campaign staff. And so we're at 21 episodes so far. And so it's been really, really good. We've been loving doing it. And we're excited to have that out there for everybody on a weekly basis. Next is the blog. We're putting that content out there via mycampaigncoach.com every week. And we've also got, of course, the Facebook page. So if you want to make sure you don't miss anything, go through those steps and you'll get every single piece of content that we put out. Amir is very familiar with a lot of the stuff that we've done. And he's actually come through our coaching program last fall. So that was a lot of fun. Definitely enjoyed having him on. All right, well, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get kicking on the presentation. So I tell you what, I need to repost the event myself because getting word from a couple people that they're not seeing, they haven't seen me go live. So we need to fix that. Yeah, there we go. This is quite the learning curve when it comes to the Facebook stuff. My. You'd think I consider myself a reasonably smart individual, but you know, we're learning more things every day. All right, so we got some more people coming on. I finally got a chance to, thank you, Andrew, for posting the link to the podcast. And without further ado, we're a couple minutes in, and we'll actually get started on the presentation. Feel free to ask any questions as we go through this. I'd like this to be a fairly interactive process as we're going through these 10 things not to do. So first of all, why did we decide to go this route as far as 10 things not to do instead of what to do? And the reason is I actually recently went and did a presentation on 9 things that you should do as a volunteer and 9 ways to have an impact on a campaign. And I did that over at one of the tea parties in North Dallas. And as I was doing that, most of the people that were there were actually very experienced volunteers. These folks knew most of the things I was talking about. So what I did is it really transitioned quickly from what to do, like block walking, endorsing, helping raise money, those types of things, to what you should not do. So we wanted to break these down in a more impactful way for people that have been doing volunteering for a long time. So if you're new to volunteering, this is going to be a big help to you. But if you've maybe been doing volunteering for a couple years, you might have picked up some bad habits, or you might have some things you're doing or have done to campaigns in the past that aren't optimally helpful. So we want to make sure that you're able to learn as you go. And as we're looking forward to the municipal races here in the coming months, as well as looking further down the line to the 2018 primaries and general election, that you're able to maximize your impact and stay away from these couple pitfalls. So, some of the things that we want to do here. So I've got my presentation up now. We'll walk you guys through some of these things, and I'll try to switch back and forth as we go through the process. All right, so the first things that you don't want to do. So number one is don't be high maintenance. You want to go with the flow. So one of the things I mean by this is that you don't want to be somebody that the campaign is constantly having to babysit, that you're looking for a new thing that for you to do every second. So if I have a volunteer that comes into my campaign headquarters and they're not getting much done, or they're constantly telling me what I'm doing wrong, or they're pushing the other volunteers in different areas and causing me as a campaign manager or candidate to be distracted from my job, then they're being high maintenance. When you step in there to help a campaign, your goal is to actually assist them. And so as such, you need to make sure you're making their life easier and not harder. I'm trying to figure out how to get the presentation to be a little bit smaller, but I don't know that we're actually going to get that done right now. All right, so second, we want to don't be unreliable, honor your commitments. Now, in this case, it's very simple. If you tell me as a candidate that you're going to be there to help me and you're going to do something, then do it. We need to make sure that as volunteers that we're exhibiting the same level of interpersonal communication and reliability we would anywhere else. I've seen oftentimes campaigns will have volunteers show up that they don't think that they owe as much to the campaign and that their word means as much to them as it would if you told your wife, hey, I'm going to go to the grocery store and pick up the groceries. If you tell me to do something, do it. Because from my side, if I'm the campaign manager or the candidate, I'm counting on you. If you tell me, hey, Raz, I'm going to be there for 4 hours on Saturday to block walk, then in my mind, that goes from 4 volunteer hours to 15 doors per hour is what I think you can get. So then I'm looking at 60 doors that I'm counting on you to hit during those 4 hours. So when I'm figuring out my targets for the week, I'm thinking, okay, well, Andrew's got those 60 doors. I need to go find out where I get the rest of my doors at. So I need to go get 4 more volunteers if I need 4 times that many. So when you tell me what you're going to do, I count on it. Don't just assume that because you're doing them a favor by volunteering that you can have some lesser version of your word. It's critical that you actually be engaged, that you follow your word, that you do what you say you're going to do. So honor your commitments and be reliable throughout this process. All right, next is don't be a know-it-all. We're going to balance that advice with execution. So when we're going through this, I've had a lot of campaigns, a lot of candidates that what they do is they will actually go into a campaign, and all they try to do is they just try to tell the campaign what they're doing wrong. So that drives me up the wall. Okay, oftentimes I've got a lot of great advice from the volunteers I've had on different campaigns, and I appreciate it. But you've got to make sure that you're not all telling the campaign what they're doing wrong. Come in and balance the advice with actually getting things done yourself. An example of that would be, if you're coming in to block walk for me, and you see problems with my block walking campaign, that I've got, maybe I'm not given the best possible script, or my walk routes aren't 100% optimized. That's totally understandable, and we want you to let us know that. You giving that feedback is critical. I can't tell you how much that means to campaigns and how many times the different sets of eyeballs from the volunteer side have helped campaigns win because they got that different perspective. But if you come in and all you do is gripe and complain, even if there's a lot of good advice in there, you're going to quickly drive these campaign managers and candidates absolutely batty. That doesn't mean your advice is bad, but you need to make sure that you're communicating it effectively. Realize that these people are in a pressure cooker. There's not a single day that goes by, a single hour or minute, that they don't have something important that could potentially be the difference between winning and losing. So you need to make sure that you balance those two things together. The fourth one is don't be lazy. Find ways to help and jump in. So what I would say here is make sure that you realize that there is not a single job that is too small for you. It can be cleaning the bathroom. It can be taking out the trash. It can be writing scripts. It can be driving the candidate or putting out yard signs or going to a finance meeting. Whatever it is, don't be lazy. I've seen a lot of people that they want to be the face of the campaign. They want to cut the robocall. They want to be on the video or have their picture taken to be on the flyer. But what they're not willing to do is make the hard work happen. So being lazy doesn't just mean doing something that's not an intense job. Being lazy means not looking for ways to help, not being willing to help and jump in when the opportunity arises. If you believe that there is a job that is too small for you, then you're wrong, and you need to change your whole outlook on how you're helping the campaign, because there are too many things that need to be done that are small jobs. Those are the jobs that oftentimes make the difference between winning and losing. All right, before I go on the next slide, do we have any questions from anybody as far as any of the stuff we've covered so far? Don't hesitate to push those up and let me know what you're thinking or if there's something I'm missing. Go ahead and advance to the next slide while I'll wait on any question to come across. All right. Next, don't go off the reservation. So what we want to make sure happens is that when I give volunteers some sphere of authority and autonomy, I want to make sure that they're innovating. However, I don't want them to go off the reservation. Anytime I give volunteers a task or responsibilities, I'm going to be letting them know this is the area that I want you to stay in. Okay, so if I'm telling you to go talk to voters, use this script. There's a certain amount of creative license that I'm willing to give you. If the words that I give you for the script for your intro roll off the tongue better if you edit it around a little bit, that's fine. But don't materially change the focus of what I'm trying to say. Don't be adding talking points that I've told you to stay away from. When I'm building a campaign plan or a block walking strategy, there's a lot of thought, there's a lot of experience that goes into that. That doesn't mean I'm always right, but as a volunteer, if you sign on to help, if you sign on to actually be a part of this plan, then when I task you with something, you say, Raz, I'll do that, then make sure that you actually follow through. I have to know when I put you out in the field, even as a volunteer, even if you're not making money and you're just there to help, I have to be able to trust that you're going to do what I ask you to do. So don't go off the reservation. Make sure that you're actually working the plan to help the campaign move forward. Next, don't overreact to management. All right, so when we're talking about management, what we need to do is, from my perspective, so I'm sitting there as an actual, as a campaign manager, and I'm going to be giving you feedback. I'm going to be trying to help you make sure that you're doing the right thing, that you're doing what we need you as a campaign to actually get done. I'm getting some feedback from folks that we're not hearing everything, which hopefully we'll get better at that. Now, what you gonna do? We'll get better at this, guys. I promise. But in the meantime, we're gonna keep rolling forward, and you can Facebook message me. I know that I should be able to see that on my screen. If you message me and there's some kind of problem, I'll take care of it. So as far as overreacting to management, when you're sitting there and you're making calls at the headquarters, or we're out block walking together, chances are I'm going to see some things that you're doing that I might have some advice on. So you're not waiting long enough at the door to wait for somebody to open it up. So your door open rate, your canvas rate is low. From there, you might be having too long of conversations at the door or on the phone, or maybe you're arguing with somebody. Either way, what you have to do is when I give you feedback, take that and react positively. Now, every campaign manager is going to do this in the right way, and hopefully you can help them learn over time. But if a campaign manager or a staffer gets onto you for something, don't just take that at face value as far as that they're an awful person if they're being mean, or if I'm really stressed, I might take that out on you. And that's not right. I should not do that. Under no circumstances am I condoning that. But you have two options. You can either get mad back or say, hey, screw you, that's not right. You shouldn't treat me like this. And that's going to cause bigger problems. It escalates the situation. Or you could say, hey, I realize they're acting inappropriately, but we're on the same team. We fundamentally want the same thing to happen here. We want to win. We want to get this candidate elected. Okay, so from there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, so we're on the same team. there is some material, some material benefit to following their advice. And so from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to disregard their tone and the inappropriate side of this, and I'm going to react positively. I'm going to look through what they just told me and try to find the nuggets that are going to help me be able to make this campaign stronger. We'll deal with the inappropriate side of things later. Once the stress is lower, once I've fixed stuff from my side, we'll come back after the calling is done, after this stressful period is passed, and we're going to talk about that. I'll give them some encouragement as far as how to deal with me better in the future. And but I'm going to get, in the meantime, I'm going to get this job done. Go to the next slide. All right, so the next one is don't be a negative Nancy. So this comes down to spreading bad morale. And Georgia, I'm going to apologize. For some reason, I'm seeing some notifications that people are posting comments that I'm not seeing for some reason, so I have no idea why that is. I got Trey's comment about audio working fine for me, but I haven't seen other comments in the last several minutes, so I apologize, and we'll definitely figure out what's going on. But I'm not getting, it appears there are some questions that I'm not getting from you guys or some answers, and I'm kind of unclear on why that might be, but we'll see what I can learn in the future. All right. So don't be a negative Nancy. So we want to make sure that if there are things that frustrate us, we're not going to just spread that bad morale, because it becomes cancerous very quickly. If there's a problem, take it to the person who you have the problem with, whether it's the campaign manager or the candidate's spouse. All these things have different, there are different tricky things that you have to worry about, but you need to take it directly to them. This is a standard tenet of Christian belief. This is a pretty standard thing across the whole world. But what you need to do is take it straight to them. That way you're not spreading bad morale. You're actually going to be going to the root of the problem and fixing it. Guys, I apologize for some of the problems here. I have not quite sure what some people are messaging me about, but Trey points out there's some kind of that there are several people that their comments are not posting up. So I apologize. Apparently Trey and Andrew can actually get post through, but Peter and George are having some problems. So I apologize for that. I'll make sure to go back and answer some of these questions in the actual comments. So when it comes to the bad morale side, we want to make sure that we're not spreading that. We want to nip it in the bud. We want to be a happy warrior. We want to realize that not all the time are the circumstances that we're operating under going to be really ideal. I actually wrote a blog post this last week called "Nothing Works, Everything Sucks," and it was kind of looking back on some advice that a guy, Jocko Willink, who was a Chris Kyle's task unit commander over in Ramadi, Iraq. They talked about the fact that when they'd have somebody in their SEAL task unit come to them and complain about something, say, hey, this gear hasn't shown up, or these things haven't been fixed, or we don't have enough time to plan this op, whatever it might be, that basically that was their refrain. It's like, nothing works, everything sucks. We still got to get our job done. And so when we don't have enough literature, when we don't have all the yard signs we want to, when we don't have the nice comfy chairs at the headquarters, and we don't have the right branded donuts, it doesn't matter what they are, we have to get the job done. We're volunteering for this campaign because we believe in it, because we want to see wins happen. So that means even when the circumstances are not ideal, we still got to fight forward. So don't be a negative Nancy. Deal with your problems directly to the people who you have them with. And in a lot of cases, if it's not something that can be fixed, don't dwell on it, and definitely don't spread that. You need to be a happy warrior. Don't be greedy is the next one. We want to make sure that we're not taking too much collateral. This is something where some people literally steal from campaigns without really thinking about it. This comes down to how many palm cards are you picking up? How many bumper stickers do you take from the headquarters saying you're going to hand them out, but never really do? If I had a dime for every time I've seen a stack of palm cards or a stack of yard signs or bumper stickers in the back of somebody's car or somebody's office after a campaign is done, I mean, I'd be a pretty rich guy and I could probably fund a lot more campaigns. But the fact is that a lot of times we have volunteers and well-meaning staff and everything that grab more than they need. I'll have people come into the different offices I've worked that will sit there and be like, oh yeah, I totally need 20 of these. And I'll say, are you going to get them all put out before early voting starts? I'll be like, absolutely. And then I'll be walking by their car after election day or at the party, whether we win or lose, and I'll see a stack of those palm cards or a stack of the bumper stickers out in their car. And you may think that's a small thing. It may not seem like stealing, but the fact is that every one of those bumper stickers is going to cost me between 50 cents and $2, depending on how many colors and how nice they are and how big they are. It can vary widely. Those yard signs, they're going to cost me several dollars as well. When I pay for those out of hard-earned dollars from our donors that I've worked hard to get and they worked hard to earn, I'm supposed to take care of that money. And so a lot of times I'm going to tell volunteers, you cannot have as many of these things as you want. It's like, go get those five signs put out and then come back for more. I'm not going to give you 20. Or you can have 3 of those bumper stickers. Go get them all placed and then come back. Those are different ways to help mitigate that. But don't be greedy. I want you to be somebody who's a volunteer that when you come in and say, hey, Raz, this is how many I need, I trust that. And you start out by asking for small numbers and look for opportunities to police up the extras from other volunteers and other staff. The more you can do to help limit the expenses from the campaign, the better off the campaigns will be, and the more conservatively you're going to be able to run it. Next is don't waste your time volunteering for an ineffective campaign. This one is really, really hard. When you're analyzing which campaigns you need to be working for, oftentimes we pick a campaign and we say, hey, this candidate is a rock star. I love this candidate. This is somebody that I truly believe in, that I think is going to absolutely crush the opposition. They're going to do the right thing in office. They're somebody that I'm going to want to have my name next to theirs. I want to be really well identified with this campaign. The problem is, just because somebody would make a good elected official does not always mean they're going to make a great candidate. They may make an even worse manager or worse boss to run a campaign or strategize one. So what do you need to do? How do you need to decide when is time to cut and run? So you have to be on the lookout for big-time problems, for real cancers within an organization. A couple of those red flags to me, look, is the candidate working? Are they actually working in their campaign? So if the candidate has significant amounts of time that are involved with not talking to donors or voters, then they're not working. If they're not willing to make phone calls to get dollars in for the campaign to fund it or willing to go out and fundraise, that's not a campaign I'm going to work for. Now, they can say, hey, we're going to break this about the people. We're not going to go out and fundraise. I'm not going to owe anything to anybody. And those are really great sentiments, and they make some grid punchlines. But I'll tell you 2 things. One, you have to have some amount of money to win in politics. You got to buy yard signs, got to pay for a website, got to pay for your phone bill or a headquarters, something like that. Some amount of money is absolutely critical. And second of all, in 99% of the cases where I've had candidates say that, it's because they couldn't or were too lazy to make the calls. They didn't actually care about the fact or about all those things they were saying about the reasons they wouldn't raise money. It truly came down to the fact that they were lazy or that they were uncomfortable and they weren't willing to go outside their comfort zone. For people that are truly convicted about that, I disagree with them, but I can respect that. I would suggest that you need to find a different thing to do with your time, because you're not going to be able to win reliably when it comes to these campaigns, and your long-term political impact is not going to be significant. If you have a lot of money set aside, you want to pay for it all yourself, that's great, but I believe that buy-in from your voters, from your volunteers is critical, whether it's $2, $3. We're not talking about selling your soul and altering your principles. You have to be able to raise some money. If you see the campaign staff is not engaging, they're not working hard, or they're spending all their times, let's say, waving signs on street corners or going to rallies or those kind of things, but they're not block walking. They're not spending time with a focused social media campaign. They're not doing a lot of these different efforts. Then don't waste your time on them. In the Bible, it talks about don't throw your pearls before swine. In this case, we're talking about don't waste your time on campaigns that are not going to have an impact. So the reason I say this is because there are hundreds, if not thousands, of candidates within driving distance of your home in a given election cycle. There are even more that you can help on the phone or via social media. So it's not like we're choosing between a good candidate and a bad candidate, and jettisoning a good one means we're going to go help a bad one, or that we're going to sit at home. You've got tons of options. There are, in any given area, there are great campaigns that you can be helping out without wasting your time on a bad one. So find ones worth helping, a candidate that's going to work hard and be somebody of principle, and a campaign that's going to use your time effectively. I want to hit a couple of the questions that popped up in the chat. So first from Andrew, it sounds like several of these points have a lot to do with morale, ego, and team. What if the campaign management is a source of negativity? Well, Andrew, the fact is that is oftentimes the case. I've seen too many examples and lived through a number of them where the campaign team is the source of that negativity. The first thing, I go back to that whole nothing works, everything sucks mantra from Jocko. This really solves a lot of problems. We're going into campaigns, it's imperfect situations, we never have enough resources, not enough time, not enough volunteers, not enough money, and so we're doing the best with what we got. We signed on to the campaign team because we wanted to win, and we were there to fight. So that means that we have to be willing to fight with the tools at our disposal and use the resources as effectively as possible. So if I hear people complaining, nip it in the bud. As a volunteer, in many cases, the volunteers are older than some of the campaign staff because the volunteers, they're helping out for free, and the paid staff are getting paid pennies to kind of kickstart their political career. So oftentimes there's a maturity gap there. Some of these staff, they don't have a whole lot of maturity and perspective. They may be hard workers and be the right fit for the campaign. But as a volunteer, you can have a role in helping mentor them through and making sure that they pick up some maturity along with some campaign experience. So point out to them, just pull them aside. Don't make a big deal of it. Just pull them aside and say, hey, this is a cancer that we're letting in our campaign, and we can't let that happen. We need to make sure that we're pulling the right way. Send them over a link to some of the podcast episodes and the blog posts we got on mycampaigncoach.com talking about this, and make sure that they're focused on the positives, and you can step up and really help mentor them in that. Chris asks, what are the top 3 things volunteers can do to help a campaign? Well, we're going to be focused on the top 9 things you can do to help a campaign in our next episode. But real quickly, the big 3 areas where those break down are endorsements, donations, and volunteering. So dollars, putting your name next to a campaign, and giving your volunteer time to support them. And we break those down in our next presentation about how you can leverage that. Matthew asked, if you already have started volunteering for a campaign, but during the run the candidate becomes lazy and stops working, do you stay and finish, or are you free to leave? Matt, I'd say that you're absolutely free to leave because at the end of the day, there are people out there that need your help. I would say don't jump ship easily. If it's something you really care about, and that's really the big question, is how much do you care about this campaign? Are there others that you care an equal amount about? If so, then you might jump over there and just start putting your time elsewhere. If you've made a formal commitment or an informal verbal commitment to a certain level of activity with a campaign, don't just jump without explaining why. Let them know. Maybe it could be a wake-up call for them. Tell them, hey, look, you need to, I'm really got some concerns about how we're handling this, and I think that you need to step up. You were working really hard, and I think you may be getting a little bit tired. What can I do to help get you back in the game? What are the things that are going on there? So oftentimes, the stresses that a candidate has that push them out of working hard, they're financial. That's a big one. Oftentimes, they put in a lot of money, and they're getting frustrated or depressed about their options. Perhaps they've got a situation where their spouse is getting stressed, and so that's getting pushed over onto them. So they're having to deal with their own stress, and their spouse is mad about them. Mad at them. Maybe he or she was originally on board with the campaign, but now that they're having to go through all these difficulties, they're not so happy about it. So keep in mind that there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that you may not be aware of. So figure out how bad you want this guy to win. Do you think that the problem is solvable? Have you made a firm commitment to the campaign that you need to honor or deal with as far as talking it through with them? And then make your call. I'm always happy to talk through some of that with folks, but in general, if it's something you care deeply about, a candidate you really believe in, I'd go to them and give them an opportunity to shape up. If it's, especially the further out from a campaign or the election day you are, the easier it is to make that call. The lower your involvement has been, the easier it is to make that call. But at the end of the day, even if you've invested a lot of time, money, and reputation into the campaign, if the candidate is letting it go, there's only so much you can do. And cutting and going and helping somebody else that you believe in is probably your best bet. Next, don't forget it's their campaign. We got to remember that it's not all about us. So you're there to help. And as a volunteer, yeah, there's a certain level of respect that you should be given. But the goal here is not for you to have a bigger ego when you leave this. It's all about getting this person elected, helping this campaign win, which allows policy outcomes that promote conservative principles. So that's why we're here, and you can't forget that, because that's one of the important things that helps you check your ego through the entire process. This is their campaign. So if I'm the candidate or if I'm the campaign manager and I'm telling you what to do, that's on me. If I tell you to do something that's suboptimal, you have two choices, really. Well, I guess there's a couple others, but two main ones that you should exercise. Either say, nope, I'm not going to do that, I'm leaving. Or, okay, I got this. Spreading negativity throughout the campaign and doing so begrudgingly is not going to help anybody. Feel free to ask why, to just say, hey, help me understand the reasoning behind what we're doing here. But what you don't want to do is have a situation where you're continually questioning and you're trying to make it all about you. Go in there and say, look, this is what they need me to do, and hopefully it's a candidate who you trust, a campaign manager who's built up some trust in your eyes as well. And you can say, look, I may not understand all this, but I'm also not the campaign expert, and I'm sure not the one running this campaign. I'm here as a volunteer. So that means even if I don't think this is the best use of my resources, I'm going to give it a shot. Now, the flip side of this is, as a campaign manager, I like to give a lot of autonomy to my volunteers and my staff. If you come to me with a good idea, or even one that I may think on its face is kind of a poor one, oftentimes if there's a limited downside, I'm going to let you try it out. An example of this is a guy, we were doing a petition gathering run down in Southeast Texas, and there was a guy that was saying, hey, I'm going to go sit out by the post office, and I'm going to sit out there in a chair, and I'm going to talk to people that are coming by and get signatures there. And I would do this every day this week. And my immediate thought was, that sounds like a really stupid idea. How many people are going to come by the post office, and how many new people are going to come through every day? This doesn't sound like a good way to maximize your petition signatures. But since I was paying him by the petition signature, I didn't have any downside. If he didn't get any done, it didn't cost me a penny. It just cost him. And so I was like, you know what? If he goes out there and doesn't get any signatures, then he's going to pretty quickly figure out that it's not a good idea, and he'll come up with a different strategy or listen to my advice. Well, as it turned out, he was right. He got a ton of signatures. We had people from all across the county coming by there because they knew from people sharing on Facebook that there was a dude sitting out in front of the post office where you could sign the petition. Now, if that doesn't happen, if the campaign is not listening to you, you get to decide how big a deal it is. Listen and try it their way. You know, if they're adamant about, hey, let's do it this way, this is our standard operating procedure, give it a try, see what you can do to help make this a better experience for everybody by listening and trying to see if their way has some merit. All right, guys, do we have any questions? I'd love to take any question you guys got and talk through a little bit more about what we're doing at My Campaign Coach. If you guys have any thoughts, I'll be more than happy to entertain them and listen to any comments. We are going to be doing these on a more regular basis. So like this week, we're talking about 10 things not to do. Next, in a couple of weeks, we'll probably be doing a rerun of our presentation that I did at the live Tea Party event, talking about 9 ways that you can help campaigns this cycle. So we'll be talking specific strategies about how to leverage your endorsement or your volunteer hours or your donations and fundraising expertise to help these campaigns, because each of those is absolutely critical, and you've got to be able to leverage those effectively. We're also going to be coming out with more and more podcast episodes and blog articles. We're also working hard to get a couple of free and paid courses out there. So Amir, who was on here earlier, he's one of the guys that came through our campaign training, our advanced candidate course last fall. We did it live at that point, but one of the things we learned was that it was really hard to get everybody on a call, and we had a lot of folks that are watching the replay online. So what we're doing is we're creating a self-paced online course that you can access at any point in time. And you'll be able to go through there and leverage our resources to help you prepare to run for office. My buddy Bruce Redden, that's trouble. Do you have any experience running campaigns for dog catcher? Well, Bruce, that's about all you're qualified for, and I would be happy to help manage your dog catcher campaign down there in Katy. So whenever the boss wises up and kicks you out, I'll help you run that campaign and get down there. Chris, what books or steps can a volunteer read or be better prepared for the 2018 election cycle? So 2 of the ones that I'm really a fan of, and they're actually sitting here on my desk under my computer, are Get Out the Vote by Green and Gerber. This is kind of the Bible of voter contact. These guys have done an incredible amount of statistical analysis based on the idea of trying to figure out what are the truly effective means of voter contact. So they've done scientifically analyzed studies from everything from robo-dials to direct mail to block walking and on down the line, figuring out what actually works in studies across the country. And it's a nerdy book, but it's going to help you see a lot of the rhyme and reason behind the strategies you should look at for your campaign. Next is a book called Ground Wars by Nielsen. This goes into detail about how to run block walking programs and a lot of your phone banking work. There's more and more stuff being available online, but honestly, the reason why we started My Campaign Coach is because there's not a whole lot of reliable information archived in one spot. So I like to make sure that we're creating new content every week, helping provide the best tools and resources necessary. So some of those are paid; they'll be coming out. Some of those are free, but definitely, if you want to stay on top of all the above, get the most up-to-date information about our paid courses and all the free stuff as it comes out, go to mycampaigncoach.com and sign up. The free tools link is there in the chat. You can click on that and download some of our tools and subscribe for regular email updates. One of the things we're going to do is we'll send out a video to this presentation in case you haven't seen the whole thing or didn't catch it live. We're going to have the entire, even all the bloopers and everything of the entire show, there on YouTube. We'll be sharing it via our email list this next week, and we'll have a download available. You can download all 10 of the things not to do and the accompanying thing to do via our website. So be sure to sign up at mycampaigncoach.com for our free email list to be able to get access to that when it comes out next week. We won't be putting that up on the blog. We'll just be having that out on the email list. Thank you guys so much, Barry and Trey and everybody else for your kind words and for getting on here with us today. It's been fun, and I look forward to doing more of these in the near future. God bless you guys, and be sure to reach out if you've got any questions in the comments. I'll be doing more of these and taking care of a lot of the questions that we've been given in the future. Y'all take care.